delegation Nepal to address the court, and I call upon Her Excellency Arzuwa Rana Juba to take the floor.
Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the court, I have the great honor of addressing this esteemed court on behalf of the people and government of Nepal. My presence here, along with the members of my team, in the proceedings of this court bears testimony to Nepal's respect for international law, which is one of the key constitutional cornerstones of my country's foreign policy. Moreover, our presence here also underpins the importance that Nepal attaches to the question of climate justice. Thus, Nepal is participating in the proceedings of this august court for the first time today. Nepal's snow-clad mountains, the glorious Himalayas, serve as a natural climate stabilizer for planet Earth. The Himalayas are in fact the third pole and help maintain the health of the oceans. They serve as a heat sink. Moreover, the glaciers and the snow melt feed the rivers, sustaining vegetation, the ecosystem, and the lives of the people living downstream. A large percentage of humanity is dependent on these glacier and snow-fed rivers for their very survival. However, these majestic mountains are being plagued by scanty snowfall and fast melting permafrost in the recent times. This increasing barrenness is a barometer of the catastrophe we are facing today and the challenges we will be confronting in the future. Despite being a key positive contributor to climate balance, ecosystem maintenance, and the protection of biodiversity, Nepal's snow-clad mountains and glaciers are increasingly face jeopardies posed by accelerated global warming and the consequent climate change, even though our own carbon footprint has been and still is negligible. We are having to bear the brunt of the impacts of climate change in a very disproportionate manner. In fact, we are paying for a bad karma we did not create. Climate-induced disasters pose a significant threat to Nepal's development agenda. Not only do these disasters destroy and damage physical infrastructure and homes, they claim lives, uproot societies, and hinder the very realization of fundamental human rights of the Nepali people. Due to the geographical circumstances and the relatively low level of development, Nepal is especially affected by and particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. As the 19th preambular paragraph of the UNCCC clearly states, developing countries with fragile mountainous ecosystems are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. Nepal's vulnerability is further worsened due to the elevation-dependent warming in higher altitudes. This has made the warming in Nepal's mountains even more than the global average. A report by ICIMOD found that the glaciers in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region could lose up to 80% of their current volume of snow by the end of the century if business as usual continues. The decline of ice cover and permafrost will cause more floods, landslides and problems for infrastructure at high elevations. Alluding to Nepal's vulnerability, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres, made the following remarks while addressing the Federal Parliament of Nepal in October 2023. I quote, "What is happening in this country as a result of climate change is an appalling injustice and a searing indictment of the fossil fuel age." End of quote. It is not just the loss of snow or erratic weather patterns that alarm us. What is more concerning is the harsh suffering that climate change has brought to the lives of the people. And this agony is even worse for women, youth and children. Mr. President, members of the court, the vulnerabilities that I am talking of are not a matter of theoretical speculation or probability. These are sad realities for the Nepali people and their societies and for those who are victims of changing climate. This year alone, almost 300 citizens of my country have lost their lives due to floods and landslides. To cite just an example, the glacial lake outburst in Thame village in the Everest region of Nepal on the 16th of August 2024 swept away 17 houses and 1 school while displacing 135 households. Allow me to quote the words of Nima Sherpa, a local from the region, who says, "Thame was a beautiful village, home to many generations of Sherpa people and their families. These homes now lie buried under the debris. It is sad to see how the mountain communities are paying the price of the global climate crisis." End of quote. In addition, from 26th to 28th of September 2024, we faced a terrible tragedy induced by incessant and unprecedented rainfall, which claimed over 250 lives and damaged critical infrastructure. Moreover, these climate-induced disasters this year alone has caused economic losses of more than $1.3 billion to Nepal. The damage was mostly to infrastructure related to drinking water, road, energy, irrigation, and the loss of agricultural produce. Mr. President, what countries like Nepal are experiencing is gross injustice. We have been penalized for the mistakes we never made, for the crimes we never committed. However, we have not given up hope or lost faith. We feel adding our voice to the global collective efforts will serve to overcome this existential crisis that humanity currently faces. It is with the hope for climate justice that Nepal attaches great importance to the international processes on climate change. Thus, we have remained fully committed to the global cause of climate action. We are implementing ambitious, nationally determined contributions and national adaptation plans under the UNCCC and the Paris Agreement. It is with a similar hope for climate justice that Nepal co-sponsored Resolution 22/276 of the UN General Assembly that requested this August court for an advisory opinion on the questions presented. It is the first request for an advisory opinion from the General Assembly, which was adopted by a consensus. This signals the gravity that the international community accords to these questions. Now I proceed to share Nepal's position on a part of the first question before the court, particularly the state obligations arising from international human rights law. Climate change hinders the realization and the enjoyment of human rights, including the right to life, right to food, right to health, right to adequate housing, sanitation, and water. Moreover, it impacts the rights of women, children, and people with disabilities, as well as the cultural rights of minorities and indigenous communities. The international human rights regime governs particularly the relations between court and individuals, whereas the international environmental law deals with the relations among states. However, in Nepal's view, many vulnerable states are not able to meet the obligations under international human rights laws, as the actions and emissions arising from beyond their territory also have adverse effects on the specific human rights of their citizens. I would also like to stress that Nepal's views on environmental challenges through a human rights framework has been in place even before such issues gained international recognition. As shown by the Godavari marble quarry case of 1995, where the Supreme Court of Nepal upheld that clean and healthy environment is part of the right to life. Furthermore, the Constitution of Nepal 2015 guarantees that every person shall have the right to live in a clean and healthy environment as a fundamental right. Moreover, the constitutional guarantee of the right to life has been further reinforced by the jurisprudence of the Supreme Court of Nepal. However, to fully realize these obligations, we need material, technical, and financial support from the countries whose historic emissions have caused the crisis of anthropogenic climate change. This includes unhindered access to technology and the sharing of meteorological and glacial data. Nepal considers that the court's advisory opinion will contribute to clarifying the law, especially the obligations of the states regarding climate change and the rules governing the consequences of the violation of these obligations. Mr. President and members of the court, this concludes my remarks. Thank you for your attention. Now I would like to request you to please kindly invite Mr. Uday Raj Sapkota, Secretary of the Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs of Nepal. He will submit Nepal's position on a few other aspects of the first question before the court. I thank you.